Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we're talking about world-renowned and critically acclaimed film director James Cameron. But some of the youngsters out there might not have heard of him much though, since his last major movie was Avatar in 2009, almost 9 years ago. And a lot has changed in the Hollywood landscape since then too. So while Cameron has spent the better part of the last decade preparing his Avatar sequels which I would argue most people aren't even that interested anymore, well, during all that, the rest of the world and myself, we've all moved on. And we've also got plenty of other, dare I say better, sci-fi and action-adventure movies to keep us busy. Most notably, of course, is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which has really stepped up in a big way since it debuted with Iron Man in 2008, just a year before Avatar's release. And while James Cameron has delayed his Avatar sequels over and over again, and wasted much more of his time filming documentaries, diving into the ocean and other crazy weird stuff, well, while Cameron has been scuba diving, the MCU has soldiered on to become the biggest sci-fi franchise to date, probably the biggest film franchise of all time. And it looks like James Cameron isn't taking this too well. He's a pretty competitive and petty kind of guy, I've heard. Some even say he did Avatar in 3D and with special effects and everything just to take George Lucas down from the top spot in special effects after his Star Wars prequels from a few years before. And now it appears Cameron is turning against the Marvel movies. In a new article from IndieWire.com called James Cameron Hopes for Avengers Fatigue, there are other stories to tell in sci-fi, where James not only goes after the beloved Marvel movies for supposedly lacking originality, he also attacks them for being too male-dominated. That's right, Cameron is going with the toxic masculinity angle here, to go after Marvel. And this is happening just a few days before Marvel released their biggest movie of all time, Avengers Infinity War. And I don't think that timing's an accident by Cameron. He wants to try and damage their release this week. So with all that said, today we're going to go over that article, and I'm going to tell you why James Cameron is being a whiny, douchey, anti-male liberal asshole about this whole thing, and why the Avengers didn't do nothing except make awesome movies that we all enjoy. Now, let's go ahead and check out that article. It begins with saying, as it appears that this chapter of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is coming to an end with Avengers Infinity War, sci-fi aficionado James Cameron says that's probably for the best. The man behind legendary sci-fi franchises such as Terminator and Avatar told reporters on Saturday that he's a fan of the Avengers movies, but he fears they have dominated too much of the genre as of late. I'm hoping we'll start getting Avenger fatigue here pretty soon, Cameron said. Not that I don't love the movies, it's just, come on guys, there are other stories to tell besides hypergonadal males without families doing death-defying feats for 2 hours and wrecking cities in the process. It's like, oi, wow, can you get any more snobby and pompous, James? I mean, I don't want to sound like a Marvel fanboy here, but those Avenger movies are fucking awesome. It's definitely one of the best franchises out right now, if not the best. And all I see here when James Cameron complains about them is him being jealous and petty. He sounds like he's so used to being the top dog in sci-fi, he can't stand seeing anyone else doing well at it. That, and I think James is finally seeing his own star is waning here. Now I don't doubt the man still has talent and skill, but where the hell has Cameron been for the last 10 years? What have you done for me lately, James? Because all I've seen you do is some dumb documentaries and make promises about a half a dozen more Avatar movies, which I could care less about at this point. Get over Avatar, Jimmy. I know you made $1 billion and it revolutionized 3D technology, but the story was pretty weak from the get-go, if you ask me. Avatar was basically just Ferngully, but on another planet, with sexy 3D aliens, sure. That was nice to look at, and the movie had some cool battles, but I don't know if I would go and devote the rest of my life to making sequels for it. Maybe 1 or 2 sequels if they came out at the time, but now, 10 years later, no one cares anymore, James. I hate to break it to you, man, but your talent is being wasted on this stupid franchise. Now let's get to his criticism of the Avengers movies here. James Cameron wants Avengers fatigue because first, there are other stories to tell, and second, he says, because hypergonadal males without families doing death-defying feats for 2 hours and wrecking cities in the process. Well, sure, there are other stories to tell, and you know what? They are actually being told. They're happening. That's been happening, James. The thing is, though, people like the Marvel movie stories the most, and that's why they're the most popular. You see, just because you took a decade off to make some boring documentaries, that doesn't mean the rest of Hollywood takes off from making movies. And to me, it doesn't sound like you want other stories to be told, because they are being told, so no. What you want, James, is you want the masses to like other stories besides the Marvel ones. Namely, your stories, I'm guessing. And I'm sure it must have been pretty upsetting to see the Terminator Genesis movie fail back in 2015. Although Cameron had little to do with that movie, it was a franchise he started and got famous for. And now, well, it's just not working out for Terminator in the modern cinema so much. Next, about that hypergonadal male part. I really think James might be going full SJW here. He is a Canadian after all, let's not forget. And SJW liberalism is in the Canadian blood. Also, James has been known to put a number of female leads in his movies, like how he did with Ripley in Aliens. Sure, but apparently Cameron thinks he gets bonus points for this, for using more female leads in his movies, but you know what? I beg to differ. Not only do I deny this claim, no one gets bonus points for casting females over men, men, but also, Marvel has plenty of strong women in its movies too. Black Widow, Scarlet Witch, Pepper Potts, even Black Panther has his sister helping him out all the time. And there's also that Agent Carter, who even got a short-lived show of her own on ABC. But here's the thing, James. Agent Carter's show was short-lived for a reason. People didn't watch it that much, so they canceled it. And while I won't go so far as to say women aren't as good at leading movies or TV shows, I do think it's undeniable that people prefer watching male leads, especially in action, adventure, and sci-fi. So Marvel choosing more male leads makes a lot of sense actually. They wanted to make successful movies that make a lot of money, which people liked. So that's what they did. And let's not pretend James Cameron used females in all of his movies either. Avatar had a male lead, albeit mostly shared with a female lead too, but Terminator was male-led as well, and so was Terminator 2, and so was The Abyss, True Lies, and Titanic for the most part. So no, I don't even really believe Cameron believes this anti-male lead statement, the one he's making here, since he could be just as guilty of it himself. What I really see happening here is James sees this as a weakness he can exploit to SJWs, in the media and in Hollywood. Him saying Marvel is overly male-dominated will give the lefties in the press plenty to work with, so James went for it. And funny enough, Cameron is the one being the actual sexist here. He's expecting special treatment for hiring females in a few movies, while he's attacking Marvel for hiring more men and exploiting that to the public. Couple that with James Cameron's 4 ex-wives and, well, you guys do the math. Needless to say, James isn't this big champion for the women as he claims to be. No, I would put him more in the male feminist category. He claims to be pro-women in public, but he most likely mistreats them in private. If you don't believe me, why don't you ask Sharon Williams what she thinks? Or Gail Ann Hurd? Or Catherine Bigelow? Or maybe even Linda Hamilton? I'm sure those exes have some great stories to tell about old, dirty Jimmy Cameron from Canada. Oi, how's it going, eh? Sorry I molested ya. Sorry. Now let's turn back to the IndieWire article. Cameron has been thinking a lot lately about the history and state of sci-fi as the host and executive producer of AMC Visionaries, James Cameron's story of science fiction. The 6-part docuseries, which premieres on Monday, April 30th, tackles various subjects about the genre, such as aliens and artificial intelligence, via interviews with notables such as Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, Ridley Scott, Christopher Nolan, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Will Smith, and Sigourney Weaver. Well, I think James Cameron may be a bit stuck in the past on this one. He's a 90s guy, obviously, and it appears now he's like an old grandpa complaining about the kids and their damned rock and roll music. And today, it looks like the Avengers are the rock and roll music of sci-fi movies, and James Cameron is the old fart complaining about them. Not that his older movies and the people on his documentary don't hold up too. I still love Terminator 1 and 2, but like the rest of the world, we've all moved on, and I don't think James Cameron quite has yet. That's why he's making documentaries about old movies and actors. And I used to think Cameron didn't follow up Avatar because he thought it was perfect and could never top it, but, well, now I think maybe he just can't keep up anymore. That's why he's stuck in the past here. Cameron has been busy working on the next 4 installments of Avatar, which he describes as focusing much more on families and generations, a bit like the Godfather saga in its installments. He's also working on a new Terminator that he said will have a more nuanced take on the dangers of technology than the original film. Production on the 2nd and 3rd Avatar movies are underway, with the 4th and 5th versions also having been mapped out and written. Dude, James, chill with the Avatar shit, man. God damn, I thought you wanted to tell original stories. Avatar would have been great as just a one-off thing, a one-time movie. Cameron should have moved on after that to do other stuff. Maybe 1 sequel or 2, but Jesus. They've got 4 more planned now, and it's been 10 years since the first one. I don't think anyone really cares anymore, James, especially with all the exciting new stuff happening in Hollywood right now, like the MCU and even the Batman and Superman DCEU. And you know what? I think James is realizing this too. He's no dummy. He's smart enough to notice this at this point. That's why he's getting so defensive here about sci-fi, and that's also why he's attacking his biggest competition, Marvel movies. And that's another reason I think James is doing this attack on the Avengers right now. Avengers Infinity War is of course coming out this weekend, and well, I got a hunch Cameron is worried it will break his Avatar box office records. That's right, James sees the writing on the wall here. If Infinity War does as big as it's expected to, it will very likely dethrone Avatar, James Cameron's masterpiece. And this will not be a good look for James as his Avatar sequels are finally slated to come out in 2020. Perhaps he's cocky enough to think his little SJW jabs here can sway people away from the Avengers movie, but I doubt this will help him. Next, let's look at some tweets that were made by other viewers who saw Cameron throw his little tantrum about the Avengers. Elizabeth here says, Cameron will surely be hoping that audiences don't suffer from Avatar fatigue, given that he plans to release Avatar 2 in 2020, followed by Avatar 3 in 2021, Avatar 4 in 2024, and Avatar 5 in 2025. Oh, the irony. That is pretty rich. Isn't it funny how Cameron says there are so many more stories to tell in sci-fi when it comes to Marvel, while he himself is slated to make 4 more Avatar movies? Do as I say, not as I do, I guess. Next, Shroobjack tweets this. James Cameron says he hopes for Avengers fatigue, and then likened his 4 Avatar sequels to The Godfather. I think that says it all, really. Another good shot at Jimmy C. Really starting to think I'm not the only one turning against this old Canadian fart. The Avatar fatigue is strong out there. And our last tweet really confirms that with what the Crag is saying. James Cameron's just salty because Avatar fatigue kicked in around 2010. I agree. Avatar is old news and James Cameron knows this. He also sees Marvel coming up in the world, taking over his old turf, and it makes James defensive. But since he's Canadian and weak, all he can do is cry about SJW issues like female representation. Pretty pathetic. And even when females do get the leads in their superhero movies, even then James Cameron isn't happy either. You see, this isn't the first time James has complained about this. Complained about comic book movies. Back in August, 8 months ago, Cameron was saying Wonder Woman was a step backwards for female protagonists. You really can't win with SJW logic like this. You're damned if you do and damned if you don't, really. So while now James is complaining about female representation, just know, even if Marvel had all women protagonists, Cameron would still be bitching. Because this isn't really about female representation in cinema, and it's not about telling original stories either. If Cameron cared about that, he wouldn't have plotted out 4 fucking Avatar sequels. No, the real issue is what I said before. James is fading away from the spotlight, and his spot as the top sci-fi director with the biggest movie of all time is going to go down soon. It's just a matter of time. And instead of being classy and keeping quiet about his competitors, James has opted to speak out, be petty, and whinge about SJW issues. Ones that he probably doesn't even really care about. I truly think Avengers Infinity War could make more money than Avatar, and I certainly think it'll be more fun and interesting to watch. All the stories, all the characters and plot lines coming together for this big event should truly be amazing, and barring some sort of humongous fuck up, I don't see how Infinity War can at least be a great movie. That's certainly going to be better than Avatar story-wise, and I also really hope it beats it out at the box office too, so that way we can stop hearing this stupid bullshit from a pompous Hollywood has-been like James Cameron. What do you guys think? Was Cameron's attack on the Avengers warranted, or is he just butthurt that Avatar isn't cool anymore? And what do you think about his SJW claims that Marvel needs more female leads? Was that an honest criticism, or was James just saying that for show? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. See y'all next time.